So for our next case study, Curating Communities with Intentional Outreach, please join me in welcoming Gioia Zack, Senior Vice President of Economic Development Services with Goman in York, to the stage. Leveraging over 2 decades of experience across the banking and commercial real estate sectors, Gioia has a proactive, holistic approach to economic development, business recruitment, and activating a downtown. So welcome, Gioia.
So based on the conversation so far, I just want to say ditto, give you back 20 minutes, and walk away. But here goes. I admit when Michelle invited me to reflect on my time in Wethersfield and speak on the topic of curating communities, I thought, perhaps like many of you, the title sounds a bit pretentious. How can I, or even we, in this room, curate a community when we do not have any control over land, owners, businesses, the buildings, the partners, even half the municipal departments? The more I thought about it, though, curating is also about being the convener. We can shape the experience, the feel, through the synergies and symbiotic relationships within our community. It's how we, economic development professionals, planners, state, municipal leaders, along with businesses and community partners, curate the experience, building the relationships with intentional and genuine outreach. Just as a museum curator selects specific artwork or a chef ingredients for a menu, so too we can foster community building through the connections we make and the services we offer, whether locally, regionally, or even statewide. For the next few minutes, I'll share some of my recent experiences, and I very much welcome an opportunity to connect with any of you later to further discussion and hear your stories. So, what, how, and why curate? What are we doing when we curate? We're looking at today and envisioning tomorrow. We capture the good, improve, and fill the voids, and we strive for adaptability and creating sustainable futures. We create and nurture synergies to strengthen connections, to build bridges, and we dream big by thinking outside of the box while asking the doubters, are you sure it can't be done? The key is to always stay true to the mission and the vision of the community. Build on that and use diverse, flexible strategies to embrace, change, and grow with the times. How do we curate? Well, by engaging, by being present at meetings, at events, visiting businesses, connecting with all the groups from students to seniors, small businesses to national ones. We listen, not just to formal discussion, but to the casual interactions. We analyze how something will fit, and we stay true again to the mission and vision. That's not a typo. It's repeated because that is the common denominator of purpose. In order to embrace change rather than to fear it, and it guides us to create adaptability and resiliency. Why? Because thoughtful connections build communities. Intentional collaboration strengthens them. When business property owners or developers come to us, they're thinking, how do I get my project done? And what information and support do I need to succeed? They also bring with them a support network and a huge team of experts that they must collaborate with to bring their project to life. Meanwhile, the municipality is thinking, how do we get to yes, and what impact will this project have on our community? Like the other group, the municipality also has a large network and team of experts they must work with. From planning and zoning, public safety, engineers, building officials, boards, commissions, parks and rec, social services at times, the chambers, that's just to name a few. The key in the coordination of the many parts and many players is so important because getting to yes requires deliberate strategic engagement rather than just letting it happen by chance. Let me illustrate with a short story from my recent role in Wethersfield. We had an empty restaurant building in the south end of Silas Dean, calling out to be another breakfast lunch place once again. Main Street had Heirloom and Aroma. The north and center of Silas Dean had Code Deli, Donut Station, Max Bebo's. The south had this giant empty space. So when I discovered that the existing businesses in town were not in a position to expand, I intentionally reached out to others in the local community. I reached out to Hartford Baking, Doro, Blue Plate Kitchen, and a few others. Options that I thought would complement the existing vibe and businesses while providing an alternative for residents and visitors. Through community connections, we successfully contacted and then were able to work with Doro. The town was able to provide some funding assistance to minimize the gap, and the municipal team worked with their team to create a new hub of life in a previously empty storefront. This one deliberate, intentional outreach became one of the catalysts along Silas Dean, leading to a new Dutch Point Credit Union pad site development, a Japanese specialty food market, Raising Cane's, the Fresh Market, Mill Street Marketplace, as well as an additional investment by Doro a year later for a new restaurant concept and all of their catering services. All this brought new jobs, as well as services, monetary investments to our community. There are many parts to the curating puzzle. So where do we begin? Our team at Goman York works with many municipalities as well as developers on putting this puzzle together. These are just some of the areas we look at when working with communities to build resiliency. Within each are ideas and strategies that can be applied. So let's start with the public realm. This includes site selection. You need to know the inventory of the properties and spaces, connect regularly with brokers and owners, and you need to brainstorm together on how to bring life to tired spaces. Discuss opportunities and improvements. Understand what businesses will complement the community through new or expanded services. As municipal leaders, it's our job to find, polish, and showcase the gems, as well as to plan ahead for potential opportunities. I mentioned the Fresh Market came to town earlier. When I started in Wethersfield, the town easily could have supported a new grocer to complement Price Right, Stop and Shop, and D&D Market. Everyone, and I mean everyone, told me how we had to go get Trader Joe's. That was not going to happen. Whole other story for another day. At the time, we also didn't even have a 30,000 square foot vacancy. Nonetheless, I contacted as many grocers as would answer my phone call, and I wanted to plant seeds. I also spoke to the building owners and the brokers just in case a tenant was not going to renew, or they had an opportunity to consolidate some vacant spaces to create something. Well, fast forward a couple years, Bed Bath & Beyond closed nationally, and now we had our 30,000 square foot hole. And it was in a central plaza. That owner worked diligently to secure a lease in months instead of years. Making the case with data, combining that with intentional outreach, is very impactful, especially when you understand your community. Moving to the private realm. So the public realm is where the municipality can help engage and bring interest, but the private realm is where the municipality must work to curate the experience for applicants so they can get their project completed. Establishing guidelines for design, signage, for example, provides clarity for the owners as well as for the community at large. At the end of the day, it all comes down to budget, both time and money, both of which are limited resources. When the private sector can rely on consistency and predictability, it makes it more feasible for them to invest and stay. the Economic Development Commission in Wethersfield created a Project Advocate Liaison role, or a PAL. This often fell on me, but depending on the project, it could also have been the building official, the engineer, or even the planner. The PAL is the convener, the one stop for a developer or a business to start their discussions, whether they were still dreaming or actually had physical plans in their hands. The PAL pulls the internal team together and makes the connections. One example of this was when a developer purchased a closed, long-blighted nursing home in town. He had so many hurdles to overcome, similar to the Gasberger story, that for this project to go through, coordination was key. By coordinating all the partners, including police and fire, who up until that point had been going there weekly to deal with whatever was happening, once the project became ready for the approval process, there were no surprises left. Another area where private participation and public participation together makes the most impact is in the culture and arts. This is the heartbeat, the community identity. It's the sense of place, belonging, and pride. This is where collaboration and intentional outreach can make or break opportunities, and it's where the community will shine. The Wethersfield community, businesses, nonprofits, parks and rec, schools, individuals, all are very, very active stakeholders that regularly collaborate for events. There's a strong sense of community pride, history, diversity, and a lot of talent. This is not unique to Wethersfield. And as all communities know, the key is connecting the partners to facilitate and support. Our town didn't have the capacity to run all events on our own. So we developed what we called an event team led by Parks and Rec, and we created a plug-and-play approach. Whether it was an annual event that brought in thousands of attendees or a brand new group, there was a playbook to follow and a team in place to then make it happen. It truly brought the community to life. It created a support network and positively impacted the quality of life. This, to me, was curating the community at its best. Now, while all of this is great, at the end of the day, we have to recognize that success is also dependent on the financial strength, not just of the businesses, but of the municipality. It comes down to square feet filled, jobs created, businesses thriving, and of course, tax revenue created to help support that public infrastructure. Businesses bring their goods, services, employment opportunities. Meanwhile, the municipality must show its support by encouraging business retention, expansion, and attraction. It needs to help drive tourism by bragging about its thriving and vibrant Main Street. And it has to offer support by nurturing partnerships publicly and privately to encourage collaboration and show how these groups complement each other. I used to tell visitors that they could come to our small town of Wethersfield for 14 days in a row and not have the same cup of coffee or the same slice of pizza, we're trying to compete with New Haven, and how most weekends there was some new event going on in town with one of our many groups. This was the community brag. This was one of the tools I used to drive consumers and uplift all. So what are some other tools and strategies the municipality can use, and how do they work? Administratively, the municipality is the one that has that 30,000-foot view. They need to understand the data, not just high-level demographics, but things like tapestries and geofencing. Where are people coming from? From the financial impact side, grants, loans, or tax abatement, which have been touched on, those programs can help bridge a gap. More importantly, they show community support for a project because they create a public-private partnership and create value for all. We developed a suite of tools, financial programs, really, in Wethersfield, and in 2 years, we saw a 24% return on investment based on increased assessed values. We invested, as a town, over $550,000 in grants, and it resulted in over $2.3 million in additional assessment. In 3.5 years, we saw over $30 million in construction costs on existing properties, not to mention the new developments. 4 long blighted properties moved to new owners and are undergoing redevelopment. Hundreds of jobs were created in retail, office, medical, restaurant, and other professional occupations. Finally, clarity is critical. Having public processes that others, and Mike Goman loves to say, are swift, simple, and certain, that curates a business-friendly environment. It's not always about saying yes, but it is about the experience of working through the process. If the process is one with clarity, certainty, it'll lead to predictability and confidence. Now, how do we find the administrative capacity to do all this when many times we're a department of one or half? Well, just as it takes intentional outreach to bring people into our communities and help stakeholders work and collaborate, so too administratively, it takes the whole village. We rely on the boards, the commissions, the consultants, experts, departments, and of course, public support. Having systems in place offering support, administrative and financially, will turn ideas into reality. Administratively, that's where promoting the community at large, again, that community brag, that can have the strongest impact. With intentional outreach in town, we used our social media to promote Wethersfield events, groups, and businesses, and their events. We promoted them on Facebook, and impressions grew from a previous high of 86,000 in 2021, when I started, to over 2.2 million in 2024. It didn't happen by chance. It was intentional. And it also didn't just bring attention, but it brought visitors and consumers to our community. So what's the key to helping us curate our communities and pull all these pieces together? Well, as you can see, there's not one golden strategy or a simple playbook I could hand you. You have to dig into your toolbox, or as I would call it, my Mary Poppins bag, and I'd pull out the best things for each unique situation. Economic development professionals, we're the conveners who can help shape the experience and tie the community together. We do it through intentional, consistent outreach. And that's what lets us imagine the possibilities. Thank you.